Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's training session for GVP inspections. My name is Cristina Pepat, and I'm Change Manager for Inspections. And today I'm here with the inspections team members, Dunia Vukic and Miguel Rodriguez, who will host and support the training. I will now present the agenda for today's session. So first of all, we will have an introduction by Dunia Vukic, followed by an overview of IRIS. Then we will spend some time on explaining access management aspects for industry users. And then there will be a focus on GVP inspections business process, supported also by a demonstration of the system. I will take care of explaining what are the guidance documents currently available to support you in the use of IRIS for GVP inspections, and also how you can reach to the EMA in case you need any type of support. We will spend around 35 minutes on questions and answers. To do this, we will use a Slido, and in a minute I will also explain to you how this will work in practice, and then we will present you with some final next steps and closing. So first of all, please note that this session is being recorded. It will be made available through the EMA corporate website from the event page, but also from the EMA YouTube channel. Same for the slides, so they will be shared on the same page. As anticipated, throughout the session, you will be able to ask questions or provide any comments or inputs using Slido. Of course, interaction via Slido is voluntary, and you can also decide to remain anonymous when sending your questions. To use it, you would need to go to the Slido website. So here you can see the detailed instructions. So you can join at slido.com by including this code, which is the event code, so #3774675, or you can join via the QR code that you can find here if you prefer to use your smartphone. The tool is really easy to use, and you can simply decide to send a question or to upvote existing questions. So if you want to hear a particular question answer, please upvote it, because during the live part, we will show the Q&As on the screen. And of course, we will start by the most voted ones and address them live. You are free to use the Slido tool throughout the whole session, so not only during the Q&A part. And as much as possible, the inspections team will also try to reply in writing during the session. Afterwards, after the end of the session, we will also collect all the questions and answers and share them with you in writing, so that you can have a reference document for future usage. Okay, so I will now give the floor to Dunia for the welcome and introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Cristina. Good morning and very warm welcome also from my side. So as Cristina mentioned, my name is Dunia Vukic. I'm working in EMA's inspections office, and I'm one of the EMA GVP inspection coordinators. And I will be taking you through the content of this training today. So this session is part of our change management strategy and plan. And what we aim to do this morning is to explain the changes in the GVP inspection process due to IRIS, to demonstrate the system, but also explain the requirements for its access and use. And of course, answer your questions and provide any clarifications. So to start with, and to set the scene and maybe introduce IRIS to some of you that are not familiar with the system, what is IRIS? So IRIS is a cloud-based software tool to manage scientific and non-scientific procedures at EMA. It's based on the integrated Microsoft Dynamics 365, a so-called CRM, And it also has SharePoint Online in the background as a document repository. EMA is intending to replace a very high number of separate systems with very different technologies that we are using across different processes and procedures. And here on the slide, you can see examples of the tools that were previously used for the procedures that are now in IRIS. In case of inspections, we had a bespoke Oracle database that was over 20 years old. And we were also using UdraLink and Outlook to manage communication and document exchange. IRIS is a system that has three components. It has three different user portals aimed at three different groups of stakeholders. The first one is the CRM interface, and the access to this is restricted to EMA caseworkers. So in case of GVP inspections, it's the GVP inspection coordinators. The second part is the network portal. This part is accessible by the EMA staff, but also by the regulatory network in case of inspections, the inspectors, assessors, and experts that are joining inspectors on inspections. And the third part is the part for industry. So this is the part where the industry can see the information regarding their products and their procedures. So if we look at the implementation of IRIS for inspections, we have launched IRIS for GMP inspections in September last year. In April this year, we went live with GCP inspections, and now we are finalizing this process with the GVP inspections. We have also learned some lessons with GMP and GCP implementation, and we have taken this into account in the development of GVP inspections. So one thing that's important to clarify when it comes to use of IRIS for inspections is its scope. So scope of IRIS for GVP inspections are the EMA coordinator, CHMP or CVMP requested inspections for centrally authorized products. There are a couple of situations where the guidance is say that this route of inspection process can be used. The first one is the situation where there are global pharmacovigilance sites in third countries. So if the inspectors identify a site that is outside of EU, this inspection needs to be coordinated by EMA. In cases where there are additional sites within EU, which are not the supervisory authority sites, so there's another site that requires a joint inspection involving more member states, this inspection will also be done as the EMA coordinated. The third option is if the PRAC recommendation says that this rule should be followed. Then we have a case of a for-cause inspections, and also when a particular member state supervisory authority prefers to follow this route. Similarly, what is outside of scope of IRIS for GVP inspections? So the inspections of central authorized products that are conducted as part of the national program. So if the national competent authorities incorporate this inspection in the national programs and cover the central authorized products as well. And of course, the inspections of PV systems without any central authorized products, so if there are only NAPs involved. Now we'll be moving on to the access management. Starting with the question on who should have access to IRIS for PV inspections. Primarily, all the QPPVs for centrally authorized products. And the reason for that is that the QPPs are the ones that will receive the inspection announcement and will be the ones who will be able to initially see the data in IRIS. Of course, deputy and backup arrangements needs to be taken into account. And we acknowledge that the organizational structure of the companies are very different and it can be very complex. So any employees involved in inspection preparation and conduct should also have access to IRIS. We would like to highlight that you can add unlimited number of users to an inspection submission to be able to see the data. To access IRIS, this needs to be requested via the EMA account management system by adding an IRIS role to the existing EMA account. So to be able to access and use IRIS, the platform needs to know answers to three questions. The first one is, who are you? And do you have an EMA account? The second is, what organization or organizations do you represent? And here we'd like to highlight that the organization needs to be registered into OMS, Organization Management System, as part of SPOR. And the third one is, which user access role do I need to have and do I have? So we'll be covering all of those 3 points into more detail now. So when it comes to the EMA account, I believe that most of you already have one, because if you're already using any other EMA applications like UDRLink or SPOR, UDR Vigilance, UPD Service Desk, you have an EMA account. In case this is not the case, you can always create a new one by completing the self-service registration form. We'd like to highlight also that there is an option to recover your username and password in case you have forgotten it, and also to reactivate your account, because if you're not using the account for 6 months, it is automatically disabled. So now we will look into the organization lookup and the affiliation. So the question that you need to ask yourself is an organization on whose behalf I will be acting listed in EMA's OMS? If yes, then you can just proceed and request your appropriate IRIS role. If the organization is there, but the data is not quite all right, you need to raise a request in OMS so the data is updated. If you don't know, you can look it up during the IRIS user access request in the EMA account management portal, or you can also search for it in the IRIS homepage or EMA OMS. And of course, if the organization is not registered, please raise a change request to have it registered. One thing to note is that the QPPB and any other users need to be affiliated to all MAH legal entities for CAPs. In practice, what this means is that if your CAP MAHs in your PV systems are, for example, Superpharma BV, Superpharma GmbH, and Ultrapharma DOO, you need to affiliate yourself with all three of those organizations. A CRO employee can be affiliated to different MAHs, and this can be done either by using a CRO email address or an MAH email address. So the third point when it comes to access management are the IRIS user roles. The first question is the one on the IRIS industry user admin role. So every organization needs to have at least one admin role that will be approving everybody else's request. So if this is already in place, then you just need to request the role you need in the EMA account management portal. It's either IRIS Industry Manager or IRIS Industry Contributor, and we will cover the difference between the two a bit later. If there is no user admin yet, this means that your request will be automatically rejected by the system. Please note that the approval of admin is done by EMA, and it takes 2 working days. So please take this into account as well. So I mentioned that there are IRIS submission managers and contributors. So what is the difference? Contributors can view and edit all the information, but cannot do the last step. And this is they cannot submit any information to the EMA and cannot also manage other contacts for the submissions. Managers are the ones that can complete all steps. There can be any number of industry managers and industry contributors, as I mentioned before, but only one of them is a submission contact, also called the portal contact. And in the case of the GVP inspection, this is the QPPB. But this submission contact can be reassigned at any moment and repeatedly by any of the industry managers to somebody else. For example, if the QPPB is on a period of extended leave, this can be switched to another colleague, a deputy QPPB, or another colleague in the company. There is also a new IRIS Industry Coordinator role, which can help manage submissions. And you can also request this one in the EMA account management system. This role can visualize and edit any submission and application made on behalf of your organization. So this is in case of GVP inspections. If you have a new inspection, the QPPB will see the information, but also the IRIS Industry Coordinator will see this submission. So if the QPPB is absent, this global coordinator can then add a backup deputy or somebody else to the submission and change the submission contact. So we will kindly advise you, not just for GVP inspections, but also for GCP and GMP, to make use of this role and have a person, one or more, that can do this. We will be now switching to the GVP inspections business process. In the first couple of slides, we will cover some important points and differences. So we will be comparing the old and the new, and then we will switch to the video recording of the system. So I would like to start by comparing the old and the new. starting from the start of the process, and this is the announcement of inspections. In the past, the announcement of inspections was done by UDRA link. So you would get a UDRA link, and then the content of inspection would be in the attached letter in a Word document or PDF document. Now the announcement of inspections will be done via email notification directly from IRIS, and the content of inspection will be in the IRIS platform itself. In the past, any type of changes, cancellation, or closure finalization of inspections was communicated via UDRA link and the updated letters. Now, if there are any changes and cancellations, or if your inspection has been closed, this will be again communicated via an email notification, and you will see the updated content in IRIS. In the past, the recipient of communications was the product contact for an example product, and now we are moving to the QPPV as the contact for inspections mandated by legislation. They will be the first contact point for inspections. Any document exchange before was done also to EMA and inspectors via UDRA link. Now the documents shared with inspectors to EMA are via IRIS. There is an upload function, and we also show this later in the training. And at the end of the process, we were sharing the inspection report with you via UDRA link. Well, now you will be able to see and download the report from IRIS directly. The important thing to note when it comes to the sites of inspection for GVP inspections is that they need to be registered in OMS. If when we create the case, see that the site is not registered, we will temporarily create the site in IRIS, but an inspection cannot be closed until all sites are in OMS. If this is the case, we will notify you and ask you to please make sure that all sites are registered as soon as possible. In case of GVP inspections, we are not expecting many of these cases, as PV sites are normally involved in other processes and procedures, and they're already in OMS, but just to keep this in mind. When it comes to the documents from applicant MAHs, the acceptance letter of an inspection and PSMF will need to be submitted through IRIS. When it comes to any other type of documents, it is at the discretion of the inspection team to decide whether they want the other documents to be uploaded to IRIS or they want them to be sent in any different way. Every document that you upload can be immediately accessed by EMA inspector, so it's live. However, there is no notification until you submit the submission, and we will show you later in the video what this exactly means. But basically, until you do not confirm that you have submitted all the documents pertinent to the submission and click on submit, we will not know that this has been done. So now we will be moving on to the system demo. So we will be starting now with the demo of the system, and the starting point for this is the moment when you receive an email from the IRIS platform. So you will be getting an email saying an inspection case has been adopted. And here you can also see the email address for which this will arrive, so you can familiarize yourselves. The text of the notification will say, dear QPPV, would like to inform you that an inspection for your PV system has been adopted and that you can see the details via IRIS Industry Portal under draft submissions. And please let us know if you have any questions by replying to this email without changing the subject line. And the reason why we are highlighting not to change the subject is that when you get an email from us, it will arrive in your normal Outlook. But we are doing the entire case management in the system. So we get the emails in the system. And to make sure that the email arrives in the correct case, we need to keep the subject line. And also in the signature, you will see the name of the EMA GVP inspection coordinator. So what should you do? You should go and log into IRIS. So we are now doing it with the full web address. You can, of course, bookmark it later for easier use. This is the IRIS landing page, where you can also see some quick links. You have information and guidance and news for you to check. And then if you want to sign in, you click on the sign in button, which will take you to the next page where you need to sign in with the EMA account. So you click on the EMA account. And the important thing is that your EMA account is your username, followed by @id.ema.europe.eu. So that's not your company email address. So please make sure to take note of this. So we are now logging in with our EMA address. And of course, you will be prompted to enter your password. And you can choose whether you want to stay signed in or not. And now we are logged in and want to access the information inspection. So where do we go? We go to the top of the screen and click on submissions. Here you see several different sub-tabs. One that says submissions, and this one includes all submissions, no matter the status. And then you also have draft submissions, ongoing submissions, and completed submissions. So you have just been getting the notification, so you want to check what is in your draft submissions. What will open is the list of draft submissions. If you're also managing some other procedures, you will also see them here, but we are now interested in our GVP inspection. And you can see that also there is a reference that you got in the email. You have it here on the list. On the right-hand side, there's a little arrow where you can then get more information about the submission. So you have an option to edit draft, and this is the information on the inspection itself. Then there is an option to view manage contributors, view manage managers, and to manage submission contact. The way how you view and manage contributors and managers is the same way. So we will show you how to do that in example of managers. So here you can see already the QPPV, and you can add more colleagues. So we will go, and here in the lookup, you can see all of your colleagues that are associated to your organization. And in this case, the colleague will add me to this submission. And you will see me in the list. Once the person is added as the manager, they can also become a submission contact. So this is what we will be doing in the next step. So we will change the submission contact. Again, there is a list of users, and I will be selected as the submission contact. And you need to click on Save and Return. And now when you open again the submission contact, you will see that it has been changed. So now we will have a look at the information that is available for you for a single inspection. So you click on Edit Draft, and the submission form will open. You will have details of your organization, and you will have 5 parts. And we will be looking into detail for all of them. So the first one is the inspection overview. Then you have inspection details, documents from applicant, documents from EMA, and declare and submit the changes. So we will be starting with the inspection overview. Here you have some basic information about inspection. There will always be a PSMF code for your PD system. There will be a type of inspection, post or pre-authorization, and you will have the reporting deadline. Please take a note of the reporting deadline now of 30th of November, because we will also cover the changes later. And you have the information about the inspectorates involved in this inspection, 1, 2, 3, depending on the inspection, and the list of all case contacts, so the entire inspection team, including their role. So you can see here the reporting inspector, the supporting inspector, expert. You will have their email addresses and their organization affiliation. In this test case, we were using EMA as an example, but of course it will be one of the national competent authorities. Now we are moving on to the inspection details. Here you have information about sites and products. So in sites, you see release inspection, we use two sites. One is the PSM application with the full address. And to note that this is the address that is coming from OMS. So it needs to be registered in OMS. We have a number of fees as well, and also the inspection scope. So in the beginning, all the sites will be there as in scope. In case we have to remove a site, you will also be notified and there will be a change there. And the second site is the site that is a third country site. As I said, one of the reasons why we would go for the EMA coordinated inspection is if there is a site in a third country. So we use this as an example as well. In the next section, you have information on the products that are covered by inspection. In case of a routine inspection, all the caps connected to your PV system will be listed here. If it's a pre-authorization inspection, it will be that one product. In case of a triggered inspection, it can be one product, it can be more, but the scope will here be clearly stated. And the information you have there here for the product is their invented name, is the active substance, EMA number, and the MAH's applicants based on the legal entity. And the last thing you can do on this part of the portal is to provide us with the customer purchase order number. It's a requirement for our finance colleagues. And please note, if you don't have a purchase order number, include the text not applicable instead of leaving it blank. So in this example, we will be filling in some data. Clicking on save and return. And we will go back to the submission form. The next section is the documents from applicants. So this is a part of the portal when you can upload the documents from EMA and inspectors. So how do you do that? There is a button called Add Files, where you can simply choose the file on your computer. In this case, we chose one called text document and upload it. And you can see it now in the list of documents. Here you have what I was explaining before, an option to confirm that you have uploaded all the documents that might be relevant to the submission. So please confirm and save and return. The next section is documents from EMA, but we will cover this later on and show you how to access the inspection report. So this was the process. You proceed by clicking on declare and submit the changes. And here you have a statement on reading and understanding the guidances. There's one is the guidance for applicants, and the other is guidance for applicants MAH involved in EMA coordinated inspections. This video was done before we updated the guidance, but now it also involves GVP inspections. And we will cover the guidance in more detail later on. So you click that you confirmed and submit the application. System will once again ask you to confirm that everything has been filled in properly. And now you have submitted your submission, and you can see that we have moved from draft submissions into ongoing submissions. So your inspection, after you do this step, will move on to ongoing inspection and ongoing submissions, and this is where you can find it later on. There are situations when we need to modify the inspection request after it has been adopted by the committees. The most common reasons for that are the changes of the sites and the extension of the reporting deadline, so the deadline for the inspectors to provide us with the report. In those cases, we will change this information on the IRIS portal, and you will get an automatic notification like this. So it looks very similarly to the one that you receive at the beginning. We just want to let you know that the details have been modified, and then you can see them in IRIS and to come back to us with any questions. So you go back to IRIS, to submissions, now into your ongoing submissions. You find your inspection. and you check inspection overview or inspection details. In this case, for this test, we have changed the reporting deadline. So I highlighted before the deadline was the 30th of November, and now we have changed it to the 9th of January. At the end of the process, when the inspection has been finalized, you will again receive a notification about this with a very similar text for you to review the information in Iris. So we are going back to Iris, to submission, but this time to completed submission as the inspection has been finalized. And we can see it again at the top of the list. And you can see the submission status and the case status are now completed, closed. You can no longer edit the submission, you can only view it as it has been closed. And to see the inspection report, you go to documents from EMA, and you can see here one document that we named test inspection report, and you can open it and download it. In case that the inspection is cancelled, we don't have many cases like that, but it can happen. You will also be notified about this. And we highlight that if the number of fees is applicable, we will send you an invoice. And to view this inspection, you also go to the completed submissions. But in this case, the status is now cancelled by EMA system and completed closed. So we have now finished with the demonstration of the system, and I will be switching back to the presentation and giving the floor to Christina to take you through the guidance part. Just to highlight that in the presentation that you received, we have also included the screenshots of the portal. So all that was shown in the video, if you want to just quickly have a look at some parts, you can also consult the slides. So these are the screenshots that I was just telling you about. Christina, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dunia, for the demo. So here has anticipated some information around the guidance documents that are already available to you. So first of all, the guidance for applicants, MIHs involved in GMP, GCP, and GVP inspections coordinated by the EMA. So this guidance was originally released with the go live of GCP inspections, and we have taken care of updating it and integrating it with information on GVP. So you will find with the go live this updated version. So the guidance contains information that was previously sent in the announcement letters. So information on document request and submission, information on fees. Then we have the general IRIS guide to registration and RPIs. So of course, this is related to registration to the system. So it outlines also the preliminary requirements for all IRIS submissions and the requirements for substance and research product identifier registration. An updated version of this guide has been made available on Monday, so you can find the latest version already available from the IRIS platform. Then we have the IRIS guide for applicants. So this is the guide containing information on how to create and submit some scientific applications, and it is targeting industry and individual applicants. In this guide, we have a dedicated section to inspection, that is section 7, which has been updated with information related to the GVP business process. So Again, the latest version of this guide has been published on Monday and is already available from the IRIS platform. For support, as you may already know, from IRIS, there is a guidance and support section, so where you can find all the guides. However, there is also an IRIS stakeholder forum that is divided into two different parts. What's new in IRIS, where you can find all the announcements about latest developments or latest announcements. And then there is a general discussion and self-help section. As IRIS users, you can also go there and open a new thread in case you want to ask anything specific to a new topic that you do not find already listed in the forums, and you can include your question there. Of course, we invite people to post questions of general interest because the stakeholder forums are public. So all the information you put there will be public available. So it is not the place where to share any confidential information or any files, let's say, that are related to the organization. If you have any specific issue that you cannot solve by looking at the guide or by reading the suggestions and changes in the forum, you can always contact the service desk. So the service desk is here to support for technical problems. So anytime you have an issue, you can go there and open a ticket. However, we ask you to be as much specific as possible when you are describing your issue, what you're encountering. So, for instance, if you have an issue that is, I cannot access IRIS at all, instead of putting just IRIS, specify EMA account management so that we can really intervene in a more specific way. And we also remind you that whenever possible, please include any screenshots of any problems you encounter, because these will help us in understanding what's the issue and the exact place, let's say, where you have encountered it. Then here you can find a list of useful links that we have collected for you. So after the session, we will also take care of sending this presentation for publication. So you will find it available in the next days, and you will be able also to consult this list. So you'll find also the guidance documents and other relevant web pages. So we will now move to the Q&A session. I've seen that you have been already really active. Thank you for sending your questions. Okay, so now we will address live the most voted ones, and as anticipated, we will then collect all the questions and publish a written Q&A document. Does the EMA provide an overview of all the EMA gateways relevant for pharmaceutical companies and how they interact? For instance, IRIS, EVWeb, UDRALink, Article 57, etc.
Thank you for these questions. I will need to consult colleagues and come back to you if you have prepared any detailed guide on this. I can, however, cover the information that's pertinent to GVP inspections. So information from Article 57 will go into PMS and from PMS into IRIS. So information on the QPPVs, on PSMF location and codes will come in via this way. EVWeb is not interacting with IRIS, so UDRA-Vigilance and IRIS are not connected. And the same goes for UDRA-Link. UDRA-Link is just a way to send documents. So for IRIS, we have SharePoint Online in the background as the document repository.
Thank you, Nunia. So will the slides be provided to the participants? Yes. So as we commented before, we will upload them to the event page. Can the submission contact also be assigned to a generic mailbox?
So when we are gathering the information to create a submission with the QPPV as the contact, we use the QPP email address that has been provided in the Article 57. So whatever email address is there, we are creating a submission for that contact. So please bear in mind that this email address will need to have an IRIS account. So if you're using a generic mailbox, make sure to take this into account when creating IRIS accounts. It will not be the QPPV personal email address. It will be the whatever address you put into Article 57.
Okay, next question is, should QPPVs of MAHs who do not have a centralized MA have access to IRIS, and can they have access?
So for GVP inspections, QPPVs of MAHs without caps don't need to have access because there will be no GVP inspections for them. Can they have access? Yes. You can request access because there are many other procedures where also NAPs are or will be involved, so you can request an IRIS account.
Yeah. From which database will you take contact details on QPPVs for sending the inspection announcement? Assuming IRIS email is automated, how will you know that the backup person needs to be contacted?
Okay, so as I said before, we are taking the information from Article 57. We will know that we need to contact the backup if we get an out of office. So if the QPPV has set up an out of office, we will follow up with the deputy. And also, as I mentioned, there is now a new role, IRIS coordinator role, and that person can see all the submissions for the company. So even if the QPPV is not there, there should be somebody in the company that can access IRIS and see that there is a GVP inspection announced, and add other colleagues to the submission who can then while the QPP is away, take care of anything related to the inspection.
Which file types are allowed to upload?
So you can upload Word documents, PDFs, Excels, and you can also upload a zip file. Unfortunately, at this point, you cannot create folders, so it's only individual files unless it's a zip file.
Which were the most common lessons learned from GMP and GCP inspections via IRIS?
So one thing that happened with inspections when it comes to IRIS is that the first time is when EMA is starting a submission. So in all the other processes, it was the other way around. So the industry will come to us with the submission. So I think the most important lessons learned were the contact managements. So when starting a inspection, and I think we have improved in this also with this new global coordinator role to make sure that no inspection announcements are missed.
Does IRIS functionality need to be used for submitting inspection reports and status of CAPA, or will it be managed via email only?
So this part of the process, CAPA management and interaction that's only between the MAH and the inspectors will stay the same as it was in the old process. So the inspectors will submit to us the final report, and once it is reviewed and validated by EMA, we will then share this report with the MAH.
Okay. Does the participants receive any certificate for this participation? So I guess this is related to participation to this training. No, I don't believe we will issue any certificate. However, the video, the recording will be made available so that also people not attending today will have the opportunity to see this training afterwards, but there will be no official certification. Which role need to be assigned to user to see the inspection related data?
So either the IRIS industry manager or contributor. So both roles can see the inspection data.
Okay. Next question is how the portal works when one person is QPPV for more than one company.
So in this case, the QPPV needs to have separate IRIS accounts for each of the organizations that they're representing. So you will need to log in with different accounts to check for information.
Okay. So next question is related to GCP. How many GCP inspections have already been entered in IRIS? And are these sponsor inspections, CRO inspections, and their site inspections?
Okay, I think we are now around 10 inspections, GCP inspections via IRIS since April. And yeah, it's a mix of inspection sites. So as in any GCP inspection, we can go inspect the sponsor, CRO, sites. It really depends on the specific inspection.
Thank you. Okay, another question with respect to contacts. So when adding colleagues' contacts to the submission, do these contacts need to be registered in IRIS 2 for then being added?
Yes, so all the colleagues will need to have an IRIS account and they will need to be affiliated to your organization. For you to be able to see it, so when you go in the lookup, you will only see the colleagues that have everything set up correctly. If you don't see a colleague there's something went wrong either with the accounts or with the affiliation to the organization.
Did you say that the IRIS account is deactivated if not used after 6 months? There is a need to create a new account that should be approved?
So if you're not using your EMA account, so not just IRIS, but EMA account for any other applications for 6 months, then it automatically becomes deactivated, but you can reactivate it. So there's no need to create a new account. You just need to reactivate it. And you can look into detailed instructions on how to do that in the EMA account management landing page. There's a section explaining exactly how to do this.
Can QPPVs currently without caps register for IRIS?
Yes, you can register. But in the case of GVP inspection, you don't need to. That's the message.
Is there any confirmation that documents have been uploaded successfully? And also, what are backup procedures should IRIS not be accessible?
So once you upload a document, you will see them in the list. So in the list of documents, the documents from applicant, you will see the list of all of the documents that you have been uploaded. So this is your confirmation that the file is there. We haven't had any issues with IRIS to date, so that it was not functioning for longer periods of time. But in case IRIS is inaccessible, we can revert to user link to share documents, or in agreement with inspectors, we can definitely find a way to do so. But as I said, we haven't had this situation so far.
What is the tentative timeline for implementation for IRIS inspection process?
So GMP inspections have been live for a year, GCP since April, and the first cases for pharmacovigilance inspections will be adopted now at the September CHMP. And this completes the implementation for inspection. So we will not be doing this for GLP inspection or plasma master file. They will stay outside of IRIS.
Will the IRIS platform only be used for GVP inspections or CAPs, or also for inspections done by NCAs or any other type of products?
So IRIS will be used only for EMA coordinated. This means inspections that are requested either by CHMP or CVMP for CAPs, so not for other types of products.
If you have an IRIS admin for GMP and GCP, do you need to request one for GVP in IRIS?
No, so if your company already has an IRIS admin to approve other colleagues' requests, this is sufficient. So this colleague can also approve requests for GVP inspections.
Is it only allowed for the QPPV to delegate acting as submission contact in case of absence?
No, so you can delegate the acting as submission contact to your other colleagues if your company is organized in this way. So the most important thing is that everybody gets the information in time.
What is considered a site to be registered in the OMS?
So in the slides, we have also provided a couple of links to different EMA systems, and one of them is the OMS Organization Management System. And there you have a search function. So have a look, search for your site, your address, name of the company, and if you find it there, it means that it's registered. If it's not there on the list, it means that it is not registered and it needs to be done.
Can zip files be uploaded as documents? So
Yes, you can upload these files.
as we specified before. In case of an orphan drug designation, is the EMA the inspecting agency or the national competent authority?
So the inspections are always performed by the national competent authorities. Orphan drug designations are normally central authorized products, but these inspections can be performed either through the national programs. So the national competent authorities perform this following the national procedures, or as I explained previously, there are some situations where this might go via the CHMP route. So it really depends, but the inspectors are from the National Competent Authority. EMA only has the coordinating role in some inspections.
If a QPPV is not registered in IRIS, can be notified for an inspection and then proceed with the first registration in IRIS.
Yes, of course. So once you get a notification and you don't have an IRIS account, the first step for you would be to go and request one. So of course you can do all of these steps when the inspection is announced, but I think it's better to not to be rushed and to have an account before.
Will UDRALink still be used for other regulatory purposes, or will this platform be closed in the future?
For the time being, UDRALink stays, so it will still be used. As I said, EMA is gradually moving on to IRIS for all of its procedures, but there's a lot of way to go still. So for the time being, UDRALink stays and can be used.
Okay. If you're representing more than one PV system, will the email identify the PV system that will be inspected?
So in the email, it will not be identified. You will need to log into IRIS to see what company this relates to. And the reason for that is it's the automatic notification and an email, and we did not want to share confidential information via the normal Outlook email. So that's why you need to log into the secure system to review what this inspection is about.
If you are QPPV for several companies, will there be a step where I will choose which company's IRIS portal I will access?
Yes, so it depends on the IRIS account you are using. So for each of these companies, you will need to have a different email address and different EMA account.
Okay. Will IRIS be used for national GVP inspections in the future? Our company has been inspected 3 times within the last year by 3 different European national authorities. According to GVPs, authorities should be coordinating to avoid duplicities.
So IRIS is EMA system for EMA coordinated inspections, and the national competent authorities have their own national systems for their own GVP inspections. And just to clarify on the wording in the GVP, authorities should be coordinated to avoiding duplicities, but of course, every NCA has a remit and obligation to check the situation for their own country. So what one country was looking into, or maybe local processes in their own country, another country will look into their own processes. So it's very difficult to have a look at that, even in the supervisory authority inspection, to have a look at every national requirement and every local system setup. So there will always be national inspections looking at their national member state daytime processes.
Thank you, Dunya. Does the industry coordinator also get copied on the email from IRIS to the EU QPPV announcing the inspection and/or subsequent emails?
No, so the contact point is the QPPV for the first one for sure. If you change the submission contact later on, it will be that person, but it's only one contact person. And this is how IRIS operates also for other procedures. So it's one contact point.
Are the inspections entered in IRIS publicly available or accessible?
No, this is confidential information, so you will only see information on your inspection. The only difference is that the network portals, the part that NCAC, they will see all the inspection information. So every member state can see all the CHMP, CVMP requested inspections and the data related to it.
Do I understand correctly, additional contacts managers need to be added manually for each individual submission?
Exactly. So for every GVP inspection or GCP inspection, GMP inspections, additional colleagues need to be added for each submission.
Okay, so next question is on submitted documents. Can you replace them in case of errors, or do you submit new versions?
So as explained previously, when you upload a document, it shows in the list. So if it's there in the list, it means everything has been done correctly. If you notice that you have made an error, there is an option to overwrite the already existing document. So if you want to just replace one document, there's an option to do this as well.
Will this new IRIS inspection process also be used for veterinary GVP inspections?
Yes, it will be used for CVMP requested veterinary inspections as well, starting from October for the veterinary colleagues.
Is it correct that for GVP, the submission contact will be QPPV, and for GMP and GCP inspections, the submission contact is the person authorized for communication on behalf of the applicant during the procedure that is commonly entered in EIF?
Yes, so this is correct. The contacts for GMP and GCP inspections are the product contacts because these inspections are product focused. GMP inspections is system focused, and mandated by legislation, the contact point for GMP inspection is the QPPV. So this is how we have set up the system.
I thought the email address needed to be a personal email. Is that no longer the case for Exit MPV?
I will need to double check, but our understanding is that we have still seen some generic emails there. But we advise you to only use the personal emails. As I said, this affects then the creation of IRIS accounts.
Is it planned to incorporate to IRIS of non-centralized products in the future?
So not for the time being. As I said, there are a lot of member state inspectorates with their own systems and their own processes. So they will continue to use their own systems for national inspections.
Will the products that will be subject to a GVP inspection need to reside in the IRIS portal under the marketing status as well? Or is IRIS connected directly with the Article 57.2 for the products?
Okay, so at the moment, we are transferring the data from Article 57 to PMS into IRIS, but we also have a connection to our current database on products called SciMed. So at the moment, it's a mix of things, but the idea is that IRIS will get all the information for PMS in the future.
Is there a way to see what has changed in a summary view rather than checking each field in IRIS to see what has changed upon email notification?
So no, there is no option at this time to see the changes. But as I said, the changes that you will see will be either the reporting deadline or the change in the sites. There are no other sections that you need to review. There's not much data, so we hope it will be easy for you to identify the change. In case of any doubts, please reach out to the EMA GVP inspection coordinators. We're always here to explain and provide the clarification.
Thank you. What are the fees?
So I would advise you to go and check the document called the fee regulation. And there's a section on inspections where everything about the fees is explained. And also there are some incentives in certain situations, in the case of SMEs, for example. So we can also, Christina shared the link to this document in the updated presentation, so you will have it for the ease of reference.
Will the IRIS industry coordinator at MAH also receive per default the GVP inspection notification email that is sent to the QPPD?
I think we have already answered a similar question, so no, the notification will only go to the QPPD. But the coordinator will be able to see the submission as soon as it's there. And it's simultaneously. So the moment you get the notification, the submission is opened for you to be able to see it on the industry portal. It happens at the same time.
So we are asking for confirmation of the understanding. So IRIS will only be used for supervisory authority PV inspections for MAHs with CAPs.
For EMA coordinated CHMP or CDMP requested inspections of MAHs with CAPs.
What happens when a QPPV is registered for several MAHs with the same email address? How can we know which MAH is to be inspected? So I believe it's similar to,
Yes.
to previous question already addressed, so we can skip it. How the inspection participants will be managed, joining outside EU territory in case PV activities are managed at different locations.
So I think this question is something that will need to be addressed with the inspection team. So how to conduct the inspections. What we do in DMA when we are creating the inspection request is to identify the sites, so inspection sites, and any other technical logistical aspects is done together with the inspectors.
According to EMA, one person can have only 2 roles. Any suggestion how this shall work in small companies with only a few persons for IRIS, CIF, ISPOC, etc.?
So there are only 2 roles that you can request in IRIS to view the data, contributors and managers, but it doesn't limit you to any certain procedure. With these roles, you have access to IRIS and you can perform very different procedures. So it should work in perfectly, where you just need a role, and with this role, you can then perform all the procedures that are available in IRIS.
Should the QPPV be indicated as a contact in IRIS at the time of an inspection announcement, or should IRIS be set up in advance with a contact person for GVP inspections?
So there is an option for you to set up a contact person for GVP inspection in IRIS. As I said, this information is coming from Article 57. So I would advise to keep the data up to date there as much as possible, because this is where we will be taking the contact details.
Is IRIS intended to manage responses to inspection report and follow-up action plan as well?
No. So this part of the process stays the same as it was in the old process. This is a communication between the company and the inspectors, and will be done in the way that the inspectors ask you to do this. Only the final report is shared by the inspectors with EMA, and then we share it with you after the validation.
When does IRIS go live for GVP? So maybe better to reinstate it.
Monday, so officially Monday, but the first notifications to the industry will be done after the adoption by the CHMP, and we also have a couple of days to do everything before we announce to you, so you can expect it at the end of the month to see the first notifications.
What role applies to the deputy QPPD?
So if this is meant to the IRIS roles, you can choose either the industry manager or the industry contributor. As I said, the only difference is that the industry manager can also submit a submission, while the contributors can only see the data. So normally, I would suggest that the deputy QPP gets the manager role.
What does OMS stand for?
Organization management system. So EMA is trying to make use of the master data. So we are trying to have systems where all data is checked, and one of them is the system on organizations. So this is where all the information or organization is stored and maintained.
I am a QPPV for 5 MAHs, having one EMA account for IRIS registration. I need 5 different emails address.
Well, that depends if those 5 MAHs are part of one system. So if those 5 MAHs are part of the one system, then it's only one account and you will see the data. But if these are 5 different MAHs with 5 different systems that have caps, then yes, you will not be able to see the information about other company in your other accounts. So it needs to match.
The QPPV is registered at EMA with CRO email for different companies. Is this also possible for IRIS?
Yes. As I said in the presentation, you can do this either with a CRO email or MAH email.
You mentioned that the QPPV email address will be taken from Article 57. Is it from the field called Pharmacovigilance Inquiries email address?
I believe so. It's the one that's next to the QPPV, but I cannot confirm exactly what's the name. But when you see the details of the QPPV, their name, their address, there is also an email, and we take that email.
Anyway, we will also then double check and specify in writing in the Q&A document so that you have a clear indication of the field. What is the regular frequency of GVP inspections for MIHs with caps?
So the routine cap cycle is 4 years. This is the aim, but of course this can be shortened in case the previous inspection identified serious non-compliance. So it can go as low as after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It really depends on the risk factors, and we are reassessing this constantly. So EMA is creating the program for the caps, and then NCAs are the one conducting inspections.
What will be the right way to communicate with inspectors during or prior to the inspection, by email or the portal?
So the way to communicate is via emails. The portal can be used for the submission of documents. So as I said, some of the documents will need to be submitted by IRIS. For the rest, you will agree with the inspectors what is their preferred way, and the IRIS can be used prior to the inspection to submit documents, but also during the inspection. So it will remain available from the EMA side for you and inspectors to use.
So if a national HA would inspect on behalf of EMA supervising authority, would they use IRIS or, for example, UDRA-Link?
So if it's a supervisory authority on behalf of EMA, meaning that it was adopted by CHMP or CVMP, they would need to use IRIS. This doesn't mean that UDRA-Link cannot be used for the exchange of documents if the inspectors prefer this way, but IRIS provides an option to exchange documents. Just to clarify, the information on this inspection will be in IRIS. So in this regard, it's mandatory. We will not be sending announcement letters via UDRA-Link or any type of information anymore. The information will be in IRIS.
Okay, so another question on access and sign-in for QPPVs. I believe, Donia, you already addressed this. Is the QPPV address also to be entered in OMS, as it is the PSMF location, if it is a private home office address, but not an official company address?
When we get the information on the sites, we take the PSMF location and we assume that this is the location of an inspection. If once we announce the inspection, you realize that this is a home office address and the inspection will not be done at that site, there's always an option to change the sites. This is what I was showing you, that the inspection request can be modified, and this is one of the reasons. So no worries, if this is the case, we will be adjusting the sites.
How can the IRIS industry coordinator role be applied for?
So you can request it in the EMA account management system. So go to the address register.ema.europa.eu, you log in with your EMA account, and there you can manage your access and request the roles. You can just search for IRIS and you will get the list of roles to apply for.
Will this Q&A session be recorded for later use or printed as a guidance document? Yes, so first of all, the recording of this training will be made available as anticipated before via the YouTube channel and the EMA event page. Then we will extract these questions from you and we will produce a written Q&A document that again will be made publicly available through the same page. So the page for the registration. Different IRIS accounts, what does this mean? I have one EMA account, which I also use to access IRIS. According to what has been said in reply to an earlier questions, I will now need several accounts where responsible for more than one company.
Okay, I see that this has now been very confusing. We will provide more input in writing, but it really depends whether these are separate PV systems on one PV system. That is the difference.
How do I know which documents need to be uploaded?
So we mentioned one of the guidances, and the one where you can see which documents need to be uploaded is the guidance for applicants MHs involved in EMA coordinated inspections. There you have a list of documents. It's separated human and veterinary inspections. Any other documents request will be sent to you by the inspectors themselves. So for sure, you will need to upload the PSMF, and for veterinary colleagues, some other data. And then the inspectors will see what other data they need.
In submitting documents, is there any virus scan checks running similar to UDRLink? Currently, it is very cumbersome and time-consuming, especially uploading large documents. Can scans be done differently?
I will have to come back to you on this. I'm not sure how the virus checks is running in IRIS, but we haven't noticed that it takes too long to upload the document. But we will check and come back to you.
Will all inspection-related documents, such as reports, remain forever in IRIS? What is the retention period of the documents uploaded in IRIS?
So yes, the reports will stay there. The current IRIS policy is that documentation is not being removed, and this is not just for inspections. This applies to all EMA procedures, and in the future we will also have all the initials and variations, so all the procedures in IRIS.
Can IRIS also be used to exchange document requests during the inspection?
Yes, yes. So IRIS will remain available, and you can use it to upload the documents if the inspectors have agreed to proceed in this way.
In case of submission of RFIs, for example, SUSAR PROC response per signal, UDRLink will be replaced with IRIS or it will remain unchanged?
So as mentioned previously, EMA is gradually moving all of its processing procedure into IRIS, but it will take some time. In the future, yes, probably also SUSAR PROC response for signals signal management will be through IRIS, but stay tuned. We'll provide more information gradually. For now, it's the same.
Okay. Could you please confirm that a QPPV doesn't need to register in IRIS because EMA will assign the IRIS manager role to all the QPPVs based on Article 57 information?
No, the QPPVs need to go and register themselves. We have been looking into the option of creating the accounts, but at this time point, it was not technically possible before to go live. So we kindly ask you to go and request access.
Okay, so I see we are still receiving a lot of questions. So of course, we are not able to address all of them live today. But what we do is that we will collect them. Of course, we will avoid any duplication and then try as much as possible to address any additional thing that was not addressed during this live Q&A part. Before going to the closing next steps, I wanted to launch a quick poll. So we wanted to collect your feedback with respect to this training. So using the same QR code or the Slido page in case you're connected from the browser, if you can insert the same code that we said at the beginning, so 3774675, and you can give us a rating on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend this webinar to appear? After this session, we will also circulate a survey, more structured one, apart from this quick poll, where we will ask your feedback on several aspects. So about the management of the training session, the content that was shared, the material. Basically the presentation, and also feedback around how this Q&A session was managed and whether it was useful to you. So thank you in the meanwhile for sending your replies. This is very appreciated by us. So Dunya, I will now stop sharing and give the floor back to you. Thank you.
So a couple of information on the next steps, the go live and support. As said previously, the first inspections using IRIS will be adopted at the September CHMP and October CVMP. EMA GVP inspection coordinators will be in touch with the first MAHs and QPPVs after the automatic notifications to troubleshoot any issues and provide guidance and clarifications. So for any questions that you have about the specific case at any time point, please reply to the emails received from IRIS. And as highlighted earlier, please do not change the subject line so that email gets correctly routed to the applicable case. We would really like to stress out that we are here to support and guide and also learn together with you. It's a new system for us, it's a new system for the inspectors and also for you, and there will be a learning curve, but we will go through it together. So thank you very much, and you can still use the Slido to send your questions, and anytime later, if you have any other questions, please let us know. We will come back to you with the slides and the recording. And yeah, we're looking forward to be using IRIS together with you. Thank you.